Where do I think the greatest value of my art exists? So, I feel like one time Ben said this thing to me about when the boats would pull up in Venice and like, or anywhere I found, like we would come up in these like kind of vessels and people would just sort of freak out and they'd be like, oh my god, and it was very disarming, and the way that he phrased it was, he was like, you get to this like very pure experience with somebody because they feel like a child for at least 30 seconds because they're so confused and in kind of this like state of wonderment that you get this really pure reaction, and instead of all the sort of armor and kind of like social whatever that you normally deal with, I just had this kind of like moment of like total connection and total like imagination with somebody. And I guess I feel like being able to open up that, being able to just like for 2 seconds just be like, another world is possible, hi, like anything you imagine. And then also I think that I think a lot about what it, like portraiture, and about if you can, whether or not you can, I don't know, just like increase kind of empathetic feeling by creating something which seeks to connect with that in someone. And also I wonder a lot about like, how we work in symbolic language. And one thing I thought was interesting that I learned about New Orleans was that somebody said that a lot of the street names like Elysian Fields and so on was because the thing that stuck, the people who sort of named a lot of those streets didn't necessarily have a traditional education, but had just kept those stories in their minds over the years that they had been traveling, and I thought that it was interesting, just the idea that the myths were the things that stayed with people. And so I just feel like as an artist, and even just like making this piece, I wonder like what is the language which is outside of our logical language, which actually like buries itself kind of more deeply in our thinking and like stays with us and affects us more deeply than we realize. And then the mayors were like, hey, there's something in this town called the Allegheny County Vacant Property Act, which is that if there's a vacant property, that people can challenge the back taxes on it and take the property over if they have a good plan for the revitalization of it. And they were like, no one uses it, no one even knows about it, and we need somebody that has like a lot of focus and energy to be a test case for it and to be like, hey, this can happen, people can do this. And they were like, there had been this one building that I was like kind of in love with, and they were like, maybe you could take this on and see if you could make this happen and be an example for people in Braddock and also outside of Braddock who have ideas. And so we decided to do it, and we're in our first stages of it. It's hugely expensive, and we're encountering the same old problems of the recession and how do you fund things, but basically it's a group of people. There's like 4 or 5 of us, and there are like 4 people who live in Braddock full time, and they are just like kind of amazing artists who are just extremely, extremely community minded. And then I'm kind of the satellite member because I travel so much. I can't really have the kind of roots that they have. Like they live there full time and they do all kinds of projects. They work with the farmers, they work with farm stands, they opened up a silkscreen shop in the library, they work with the youth program. They're just kind of constantly just sort of answering that question of like how do we be who we are as artists, but then also like really try to do something awesome for this town. And so in the long term, there's this building which is this giant kind of, I think it was built in 1850, and I think it was a Lutheran church, and we want to create something, the idea is still forming, but my kind of closest approximation of what it will become is a kind of a museum of sort of beautiful and probable moments of change. And there are lots of those happening, and I think and I want to just sort of give a small example. Like I thought about, so there was a moment in Liberia where this group of women stopped like this years long, like heinous, bloody, awful civil war. They just sort of like they just through like insane perseverance and total like dedication to making it stop, they just made it stop. There's a documentary you guys could watch called Pray the Devil Back to Hell. It's really amazing. But I saw that and just thought about how those stories, how important they are, and then how there's like a seed of thinking in some of those moments that's not just about the hugest moment. It's not just about the civil war in Liberia and like the total like like heinous kind of life or death situation, but how that sort of thinking of how to like see what's happening in a moment and realize what needs to be changed and like find the resources within yourself and within your community to make that change. And so I think that we want to make a museum that sort of examines that and how that thinking plays out in all different scales, like, you know, down to like community gardening and all these like very tiny acts that people participate in to make all of our lives better. Yeah, so that's that. Sorry. Okay, anyone else? Yeah.
Have you ever had a project that you turned down because of reasons other than time or money issues?
Have I ever had a project that I turned down? You mean like people approached me and said like, will you do this?
You said, I'm not interested in that.
I mean, occasionally, but nothing like for sort of like scandalous reasons usually. More it's just like, you know, you have to pick and choose like what you want to give your energy to. Right now, this year, I feel like I'm like a little bit on vacation because I have 3 museum projects in a row, and it's nice to like I've been really enjoying like being in the world and kind of like fighting it out with the elements and like having to answer all the questions of, you know, of community and of like, you know, even just the thing of like of sort of like dealing with nature and sort of interfacing with like rivers and tides and rainstorms and the Coast Guard and all of the different sort of obstacles that you face when you're working out in the world, and right now it's been really nice to just be able to like really let my imagination not have to fight anything. It's been really good and wonderful, and I will always continue to work to find ways to work in the world that feel really fulfilling to me. But right now, I've been sort of enjoying just being able to like kind of let a thought process, you know, go from a seed to inception and have people sort of support and have it just be nurtured in a certain kind of a way. And I think a lot of times these are not the kinds of projects that I choose, but right now I'm having fun sort of doing that. Yeah.
Where are your boats now?
Well, the Rockaway boats, one of them got burned down, one of them got cut loose, and I don't remember what happened to the other one, but they're gone. That was an accident. We were going to go back and try to get down to New Orleans the following year, but we docked them in a public place in St. Louis, and they died. And then the other boats, the ones that were in Venice, are actually now in a shipping container in Puglia, Italy, sort of awaiting one more moment. I don't know that I want them to necessarily have another sea journey or that they would survive it, but they're such kind of like meaningful relics to me that I wanted to do one more thing with them, so we have them still. Yeah.
Do you feel like your socio-political beliefs have any similarities with Kathy Colwood's? How did you first become acquainted with her?
I mean, I actually have to sheepishly admit I don't know a ton about Kathy Colwood's socio-political beliefs, except that she created a lot of work that was about the atrocities of war. I definitely first became acquainted with Kathy Colwood's just in that kind of like visual, soulful connection way. I think that her work is one of the most soulful expressions that I know, and so I just responded to it in that way. Yeah.
What do you tell people you're doing as they stop and say, hey, what are you doing?
I usually say I'm making a portrait. Here it is. It's this person. What do you think? It's going on this wall. It's it wears away in time. Stuff like that. Okay. Is that it? All right. Thank you, guys.